I grew up as an Air Force brat. My dad was recalled for Korea in 1950, and my parents decided to make that a career. So, I remember very little about Columbus, Ohio, a little bit more about Albany, Georgia, more about Skegness, England, more in Omaha, Nebraska, Montgomery, Alabama, Derry, New Hampshire, and then I went to college.
Brian Thacker was commissioned in the Army through the ROTC program at Utah's Weber State College. After a 6-month tour in Germany, he was sent to Vietnam in the fall of 1970. By the spring of the following year, Thacker was leading a 6-man observation team in Kon Tum province on a hilltop known as Fire Base 6. They were there to support a South Vietnamese artillery unit.
And we'd been on that mountaintop for 2 or 3 weeks with no sightings, to be honest. There was activity, you could tell that. There were reports and some intelligence coming in that we knew we were in enemy-held country, but we never saw them. And one morning they decided to attack. And it was well-aimed, very accurate fire. The South Vietnamese that were on the perimeter responded and fought back. There was one particular machine gun position that was the focus of the attack. And when they knocked that machine gun position out, their sappers were able to come up through the wire and start to assault the actual perimeter. And when they made that assault and broke through that first line of defense, where I had my men positioned effectively became, which was supposed to be a backup line, became a perimeter. And the South Vietnamese just fell back and reformed the perimeter where we were. And the little oval that we called a fire base just kept shrinking and shrinking and shrinking through the day. It was very obvious that what they wanted to do was capture the South Vietnamese pieces of artillery. All we were fighting for at that time was to buy time to make sure that we could make the ARVN artillery inoperable and destroy the powder. And then hopefully figure out a way that we could be extracted, or if we had to leave the fire base, where we could go to. Americans tried to resupply us. They lost 2 helicopters in short order. If you didn't think it was for keeps before, knowing that they had a well-placed anti-aircraft capability up on a mountaintop, they definitely wanted the fire base. And I guess it was, 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon when the helicopters above, the Cobras, were reporting that the enemy was massing for an attack. They could see it, but they couldn't stop it. There was a little lull there where we put our heads together and said, now's the time. If we're going to leave the fire base and go to an extraction point, now's the time to leave.
Thacker remained alone inside the perimeter to provide covering fire until all friendly forces had escaped the besieged fire base. Then, in an act of extraordinary courage, he called for friendly artillery to fire on his own position to allow his comrades more time to withdraw.
And as they were leaving, I was still talking to American artillery that was going to shoot it for me and getting the mission through. And it was just a matter of seconds before they were down a trail, and when I turned around, I couldn't see them. So I started to follow them where I thought they would be, and at some point, I thought, Brian, you're being stupid. Your backside is fully exposed to whatever North Vietnamese force is now currently assaulting your former position. You have to get off the trail and get away and get down into some cover so that you won't be so visible. And as a result, I knew that I was isolated, cut off, and wasn't going to be with the main group that was farther up a trail. And so, I I continued to try to move that way, but there were enemy patrols in the area. You could hear the rifle fire and the firefights going on. And at some point I said, I'm better off stopping and making no movement and waiting to see what's going to happen. Then I'm far enough away from that fire base to where I don't think the North Vietnamese are going to sweep out this far and look for me. And yet I'm close enough so that if the fire base was ever retaken, I would not have to go through kilometer after kilometer of enemy territory, just a few hundred meters back to a friendly position. That was a good plan, except the North Vietnamese put another anti-aircraft group right where I was hiding, all around me. I was in a little bamboo thicket that they thought was solid bamboo, and I could hear them signaling each other. I could hear their firing positions, and it was just I was in the wrong place. I couldn't move.
Thacker stayed hidden in the bamboo canopy without food or water for 8 days. It was then, after friendly forces regained control of the fire base, that Thacker slowly and painfully crawled back up the mountain and was eventually evacuated to a hospital.
I was in no condition to go back to my unit. It took me months to recover my strength. My dad called me first, and he said, "The Army has called me and asked for your phone number, and I've given it to them. Now, one of two things. You're either going to be recalled to active duty, because something's going on that they need you as a reservist to come back on active duty. Or you remember that recommendation for the Medal of Honor that I told you about 2 years ago? It's going to happen to you. Please give me a call." There were 8 other recipients that were decorated that day at the White House. And, in many respects, the decoration and the award is as overwhelming as the event itself. You know, it's like, I lost 3 men up there. When are we going to talk about them? And you don't. I'm the one that gets to talk about what happened. I get all the glory. There's 3 grieving mothers still, whose sons were every bit as brave and had the courage to be in the fighting positions where I wanted them to be. And had they not been there, I wouldn't be here. So again, I get to tell the story.